everyone, I've been receiving a couple of questions, and so I wanted to go over how to simplify your models in Maya and how to address any issues that we're seeing in Mudbox. Thankfully, a couple of your fellow classmates have offered up their file for me to take a look at and kind of troubleshoot with. One of the most important things is this UI display here that shows your poly count. To get this, you can go to Display, Heads Up Display, and then poly count. What this will tell you, for example, if I'm in vertex mode, let's do on something a little bit more simple, vertex mode, and I grab this, you can see that I have 4 selected, but it's telling me that I have 4 here. So for some reason you had some overlapping vertices and you couldn't quite tell what was going on, this will be a key place to look. So let's start just in Maya with the basics. A lot of you have more polygons than necessary for your base mesh. Don't forget we're going to be doubling the amount of polygons every time we subdivide in Mudbox, so you're not going to want to start with a high level of detail. You're going to add it as we go along. So what we can do is right mouse click and hold, and go into edge mode, and then if I double click on an edge, you can see, it's hard to tell a little bit with this color, but I'm grabbing the entire edge loop here. So as I go around, oh, it looks like I am not. So that would be a time to figure out, well, why isn't it grabbing all around? So if I go into vertex mode and I select my one vertice that I think is here, you'll notice I have 2. So that's an issue that we're going to need to solve right away. And we can go to Edit Mesh, Merge to Center. Now unfortunately you have to do this 2 at a time all the way around. But we can hit G, as in great, on the keyboard to redo our last action. I'm getting a weird, let's do, let me keep going through. And this is just because I'm in hotkey 3. If I go back to hotkey 1, you can see I'm retaining the shape. So I'm just grabbing the 2, hitting G to redo my last action, and you want to go all the way through. Now I've already dealt with this model, but I'm going to leave the bottom here so that you can see some of the things that we're going to come across in Mudbox. You'll notice every time I hit G, this goes from 2 to 1. Alright, you'll want to do this throughout the entire thing. To save time for this video, I'm just going to do it till there. So now if I double click, you can see it goes all the way around. So what I can do is decide, do I really need this edge loop for detail? If not, I can hold Control and Delete. And that will delete the actual edges and the vertices that are with them. If you just hit delete on the keyboard, it's going to leave the vertices behind and you're going to have added detail that you don't need and that will mess up your model as we get further into the software. So I'm just going through about every other one I don't think is very necessary. You may find that there are a couple in a row. It's going to depend on your project as to which ones to delete. Alright, so we've already simplified a bit, and I would continue to do that all the way up. Now what I can also tell from this model is these are made from a bunch of separate pieces. You'd preferably model from one. So what I can do, for example, is start to extrude the handle out of this center object. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'll keep it just for a reference. But I can zoom in here and grab some of these middle faces, and then I can go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. Now with my Extrude tool, I'm going to hit W to get my Move tool back and start bringing this out, trying to match this a little bit. You can use your Scale tool and hit R to kind of straighten this edge out. It'll make extruding a little bit easier. I still have these faces selected, so I can do another Edit Mesh Extrude, start bringing this out, and start shaping it to kind of match this. Maybe I need to go back into edge mode and bring this one down a little bit. And this is up to, you know, your design needs and wants. So I'll do another extrude, and I can grab my move tool and so forth. Of course, you would want to make it actually match your drawing, but for the sake of time, I've got that one. Then what I can do is on the center here, I want to look at a front view, and I can insert, oh, I guess we want a side view. There we go. I can insert an edge loop. And what I'm going to do is insert at the very center, and then I'm going to delete the half that I want to have duplicated. So I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to delete, go back to perspective. My view is acting a little strange. For some reason it still has me in the tool. So you can always hit Q on your keyboard or get your selection tool to get out of that. But there we go. So now I can hit delete. I'm going to go in object mode, and then alright, so I'm going to go to mesh and then mirror. Oh, let me hit the option box to show you first. In here, we do want to combine with the original because we want this to be one piece and merged at the vertices here. And then I need to decide what axis I'm on. And you can look down here to see I want to mirror in Z. And then you can hit mirror. Worst case scenario, if it's not mirrored the way you want, you can always undo it and put it back. Alright, so I've simplified that to be one mesh. Ideally, I would want to do the same thing to extrude the top off of here. But for the sake of this lesson, let's just grab all of our pieces, and I'm going to do a mesh combine. So if you do have separate pieces, you're going to want to do this before sending to Mudbox. So now I'm going to send to Mudbox. So you want to click on your object and go File, Send to Mudbox. And I always do sending as a new scene. It seems to run a little bit more smoothly that way. And what this will do is it'll open it up in Mudbox, and it'll show us any issues that we're having. So Mudbox detected some problems. We have an incomplete UV set, which makes sense because I did all that editing and did a mesh combine and didn't even look at my UVs. And then it says we have a degenerated face. Mesh has faces where the corners either lie on the same line or location in space, which is what we were talking about earlier, where our vertices may look like there's one, but there's actually multiple in the same spot. So what we can do is say keep this mesh, and the cool thing is Mudbox will show us where that error is. So we can see it's at the bottom of the blade. So I'm going to go back into Maya. I'm going to go into vertex mode, and let's take a look at what we have going on at the bottom of the blade here. So I'm going to grab that bottom where it should be just one, and you can see that I actually have 15 vertices. So I'm going to do a merge to center. Now I just have one. And we can do the same thing, making sure it looks like these two should be merged because I didn't do the bottom two as I was going around. And then lastly, we need to fix that UV. So I'm going to go into object mode, click on my object. I'm just going to try an automatic map, which means it's going to take it from the front, sides, back, top, and bottom, aka 6 different angles, and do an unwrap automatically. You can see the 6 different planes it's taking it from. I can go to UV, in UV Editor, and I can see what my unwrap has done. Now this is clean, it's completely unwrapped, and it works well for this first kind of learning assignment. As you get into texture mapping, you'll learn that you can actually stitch pieces together, make things fit a little bit better to your liking. You could do a front planar map and just have this whole front on one side and the whole back on one side like the blade was unwrapped, or you can have several pieces. What I'm looking for here is that you don't have any pieces that overlap with another one and that they're nice and cleanly laid out. So this works perfectly. We've got that all set. So let's go back into object mode and send it over to Mudbox again. I'm going to send as new scene. I'm not going to save my old one. And ta-da! We don't have any errors. So now you can feel free to actually get started and molding in Mudbox. So I hope that clarifies a little bit. I've got one more file that I want to show you. So we've got a teapot here. Now, if you are opening it and you see something is all blacked out, you can go to Lighting in your viewport and turn on two-sided lighting. For some reason, in the newer versions of Maya, it doesn't make that as simple. I'm going to delete her reference planes just because I'm not using them. So, we've got some similar issues as before. We have edges kind of all over the place and maybe not completing an edge loop. So we need to check our vertices. So I'm going to go into vertex mode. Let's make sure. So here, for example, I have 2. So I want to go to Edit Mesh, Merge to Center. And I'm going to do that same thing that I did with the blade and continue through this whole piece. Now if we look down here, you can see we've got some overlap. Now that's to get the shape that was in the drawing, but if you move some of them, you can see that we have extra detail hidden underneath. So that's something that's going to need to be cleaned up, and it'll give issues trying to grab the entire edge loop, because if I double click, you can see that I'm only getting one edge instead of an edge loop, because Maya is confused as to what edge goes with what vertice and where. So how do we solve this? Well, starting to go through and merging vertices will definitely be a good start. You may want to try to just simplify and start from a base shape again. I know it's a bit of a pain once you've done a lot of work on something, but sometimes it's easier just to start simply than to try to fix what you have going on. You can always move these around and see if you can find where the overlap is. And then you can delete faces. But it looks like we've got a lot of weird shapes in here. You can always maybe delete certain spots and do extrudes to build it up again. I've also heard some issues where people were having vertices that were popping. You couldn't just move, click, and drag. If you double click on your move tool, you'll notice that there's this step snap area. And if that's turned on, or relative or absolute, you will get that snapping and be unable to just click and drag on your own. So those were the main issues I'm seeing. Take a look in Mudbox and see the alerts that Mudbox is bringing up, and then feel free to email me or use the discussion board and we'll figure out how to solve them.